Hey, Happy New Year, everyone, and good evening. This is Lowman02. Um, Want to go through a deck we ran today in the Chainsaw Massacre. It's Grixis Control. It's a deck you saw us play against ML Berlin yesterday on our channel. Unfortunately, we went 1-2 with this deck in the 3 rounds we played with a very promising start against Michelle Wong. I think we played well in the tournament, but as you'll see, we hit a few bad strings of luck. And honestly, I think if control is what you're looking to play, you know, you probably want to go Esper Pie, specifically for the last match you play against Chaos Black Doom, which is the Red Deck wins matchup. Okay, so first round against Michelle Wong, who's currently on 5-color Planeswalkers. Okay, so initial keep. This is a fine hand. Like, generally your keeps are going to be 3 to 4 lands in this deck. That's what you want. I got control, I have redundancy and Snapcaster, and I can kill early creatures with this hand. It's fine. And I don't know at the beginning of this she's on 5-color. We see a Nature's Lore. She's getting up on mana, but she's down a card. I'm fine with that. I'm not looking to win rapidly with this deck. I'm just looking to counter her relevant threats. So the way I end up playing it, because, you know, at the end of the day, what's really going to kill this deck is going to be the walker she plays, is I'm just going to wait for relevant spells. This, however, I can't abide. I don't know what she's running in her deck that's a worthwhile enchantment, but I mean, if somehow she sacrifices that thing, or I have to wrath the board, and she gets like an omniscience or something silly, like I don't want to lose that way. So we kind of bait her here. I'm hoping she does this play because I want to use the deck to generate a large graveyard. And then if she attempts to do it again to finish the deck off with her Stirring Wildwood, thus tying up her mana, I intend on using the Ghastly Demise to kill it. So we get a Tainted back. And we end up keeping the lands, I believe. No, we shuffle it. We get a Spell Pierce, which is good against Planeswalkers. So we do Tainted Pact here. We accidentally misclick. We really didn't want the Abyss in this matchup, but it's whatever. She just keeps on passing it back, which I don't think is going to be favored against this deck. We get to Tainted Pact again. We're kind of happy that we hit that island off the top because this deck runs 3 snow islands and 3 regular islands. I believe we Serum Visions here, dump both those to the bottom, and just start attacking. Snapcaster Beats. It's a fine threat. You know, we can stop most of what she has going on. When she does nothing here, I figure I'm winning this game because I know I'm going to get a Factor Fiction off. I don't think she plays an instant speed with this deck. And we've hit all but one of our Trinket Mage targets at this point in time. And in retrospect, it may have been intelligent to keep the Pithing Needle because if she does happen to get a Planeswalker off, we can stop it. We wisely leave up our 3 mana, Battered Skull back to hand. It's fine. So we just got our win gone, and this game kind of goes how you'd expect. We play an Ugin out, just zap that thing with the Bolt ability, attack in, and there's not much you can do here. Wall Blossom, cool. Yeah, we get that thing out of the way just to keep on beating in there. We want to kill her with lightning bolts off Ugin and then just Snapcaster Beats. 3 visits, yeah, cool. You know, those cards are great. I'm referring to like Nature's Lore and then the Portal 3 Kingdom card, 3 visits, which is essentially the same card. But, you know, I think what a lot of folks fail to account for in them is they do take a card up. And I think you almost need to play those kind of cards in a deck like this because of the mana requirements. As we said, like, this is what we need to counter our Planeswalkers. And the game's over at this point. We've got Lethal on board. We zap her and then attack him. And our hand is just ridiculous. I don't even know what was in it. Just everything pretty much. So we have to get rid of that one. We have a land that does nothing. We have 3 in this one. It's fine. We've got a counter spell for an early play. We have a Trinket Mage to stop any resolve Planeswalker that gets under our counter magic. And then we have some mass removal for creatures. But I mean, I think what you'll end up seeing is the Toxic Deluge stays in our hand for like most of the game. I think we end up using it like near the last 2 turns of it because she's not on a creature heavy deck. So yeah, we see Xenagos. This is the kind of stuff we counter because once that thing's resolved, we just can't beat it. I mean, I guess we could let it resolve and get attacked for 4 damage off haste 2/2s, and eventually drink Mage to get the Pithing Needle. But I'd rather not get beat up by that thing. So we draw at Thoughtseize, and we laugh because her hand is just terrible. It's just all lands. I'm just like, woo, that was a waste of a card. I probably should have just Trinket Mage, but I wanted to be sure. I think it was the right play still. So draw Memory Lapse for the turn. We opt to go for it here because she's off the top. Like, she's completely off the top ropes at this point. She has no threats in hand. So we keep on making our land drops. This deck really needs to make its land drops. And you'll see in some of the later games, we just don't. Okay, yeah, so we Grizzly Demise that thing, or Ghastly Demise that thing. She's got 2 man lands, and so this requires a lot of play around. But I think in the game we played against ML with this deck, we had to do the same thing. Yeah, she tramples over. Cool. I'm just saving damage. I don't intend on beating her to death with that Trinket Mage. Baleful Strix is a great draw. So, I mean, we get into Jace, which we can't obviously play on this board because it'll just die to the Celestial Colonnade. But we can get rid of the Raging Ravine, which is arguably a much larger threat. I'm glad to see her using her mana to do this. You know, I can trade damage for time because she doesn't have burn in her deck. I'm not just worried about my life total, just as long as I'm not dead. So we leave our mana up, so we have Snapcaster and Memory Lapse available. We see this come out, and we're happy to see that. We're kind of hoping she'll activate her Kessid Wolf run. She does not. So we end up going for the Ghastly Demise on this card as well. And we've gotten rid of Primeval Titan, Raging Ravine, at this point, the Celestial Colonnade, 2 of which are very hard threats to get rid of. We end up Memory Lapsing and actually wanted to draw it. That'll ensure that we can get our Jace off and start building our card advantage engine. We take the Torrent Gearhulk, even though it's a smaller pile, just in case like she's been sacking something in her hand big that we need to counter. And that's definitely not it. I believe... Yeah, we terminate that guy. And we obviously don't have attacks with a Maze of Ith in play, so we're kind of just hitting our top deck right now the same as she is, but we have a Jace to support that. And we see a Pithing Needle. Yeah, we counter that. Right now, I think her deck probably runs more threats and ours more answers to threats. We need our Jace. I do like seeing Creeping Tar Pit. That's a great card in this deck, and really it's good in this matchup because it threatens her Planeswalkers. We play out the Jace with a mind to, exchange in our other Jace, Architect of Thought, which at this point is kind of too slow. We see Garrett come out, and we're like, not great for us. But the cool thing is we do have that Creeping Tar Pit, like I was talking about, which is great at killing Planeswalkers. After we knock out her Maze of Ith, we just kill the Garrett. She doesn't manage to top deck well. Let me turn this off. All right, so we have Eternal Dragon come out, which we're kind of like, but we can out-tempo her with it. I mean, it's obviously a very high-value card, but very slow. So we go ahead and cast our Ponder because we don't want our Jace anymore. We've got a better Jace. Believe we do not shuffle. Into the Royal is kind of nice. So we saw Into the Royal land and land. The reason I like Into the Royal is because it allows me to accrue value against her replaying the Eternal Dragon. Which, if I ever pass a turn with the Eternal Dragon staying on board, and she's able to pump it and hit me with the Kessid Wolf run, I'm just dead. So, I mean, I got to do that. But at least at this point, the Maze of Ith is out of the way, and like with my very minimal threat package, I'm doing okay. So we don't attack with the Creeping Tar Pit there because we want to get the card off of Into the Royal. We think that's more valuable. Force Spike, though, maybe we should have. I don't know. We leave Plains on top of her deck, and at this point, we're just beating up her top deck with Jace and forcing her to utilize her Eternal Dragon every turn. So I just start burning her out because I have this other Jace in hand, and what I'm kind of thinking in my head is like I'm pretty close just to burning her out here. Like I can win this just by burning her. I see Swords of the Plowshares. I'm upset about it. It's like that's not good for us. But we've got her down to 5, and we do have a Jace that can flip that thing. We just need to architect it in a way that we don't have assurance of not getting hit by the Eternal Dragon. So Toxic Deluge ends up earning its weight in gold here. We've held down to it. I think it was in our opening hand, and her deck's not really one it's great against. We end up putting the Huntmaster of the Fells from the top of her deck on the bottom because at the end of the day, we don't want her gaining life because our plan has kind of turned into a burn plan at this point. And if I'm not mistaken, we have Firebolt plus Kolaghan's Command in the graveyard. So really all we're short right now is one land. All we need is one land to get there. We Force Spike this just to limit our plays, plus Force Spike's just a dead card. I have no need for that. I guess I could save it for Jace Ring's Prodigy. But really all I need is land at this point. So I keep the Forbid, and then just zap her to death. And that's game. So we take the first round down. We're feeling pretty good about Grixis Control. So we play round 2 against Dots, and unfortunately, we have a very bad series of mauls. You didn't see that firsthand, but we were one land, I think it was one wasteland, and then a bunch of spells, not keepable. We get this hand, yeah, we get a scry with it, but, and if I hit blue, this could be all right. But if I don't, I'm just going to die. I'm kind of guessing, and I didn't get to see his match because unfortunately, this deck tends to play longer games, so I have less ability to check their matches out. I guess I could have jumped out and checked them out real fast, but I don't like making my opponent wait. And secondly, we were already 7 or 8 minutes, left on the clock against Michelle. So I put this one back as well, and what I end up staying with is a much more safe and reasonable keep. I see a Thoughtseize on top. I end up ditching that, play out my fetch land to avoid wasteland. And the expectation is that I'll cast the Remand on whatever he ends up playing on turn 2. And really, I'm kind of hoping to get all my land drops, because I feel like if I can get Battered Skull out, I can achieve parity to a decent extent against mid-range. But I don't feel great about winning this matchup having gone down to 5. So we're glad to see no turn 1 player acceleration. And I believe this turn he tries to play out a Tidehollow Sculler. Yeah, and we go ahead and remand this just to buy ourselves time. We're looking to get deeper in the deck, find more relevant threats. We're kind of happy with the Pithing Needle. That thing gets a lot. And it ends up actually doing work for us because not this turn, but next turn, he ends up playing a Knight of the Reliquary. So, we're very unhappy to see Thalia Heretic Cathar. What our hope kind of is to force him to choose between Into the Royal and Battered Skull. But without the ability to get value off of it, I'm kind of disappointed. It's what can I do? So there's Knight, and the Pithing Needle is again earning its weight. We bounce the 2/2 back to his hand to get our Battered Skull back. We end up playing the Pithing Needle out, and then we get Cryptic Command. So, we are getting fortunate on our draws. However, we're down so many cards at this point, and we really haven't been able to find a sweeper that I think we're still in trouble. So we see this guy, or the Tidehollow Sculler, come out. I think Dots probably misplayed this. I don't think this card comes out in main 1, just due to the fact that it doesn't play around whatsoever Cryptic Command, which we are showing mana for, even though it's probably not obvious with the lands that we have in play. So I believe we end up bouncing, if I'm not mistaken, the Knight and countering the Tidehollow Sculler. It may have been right to bounce the Thalia, but I feel like, I don't get as much value. I'm not gonna save as much damage. I'm already down to 13, and he is definitely a 4-color mid-range, really mid-range beatdown deck. I call it 4-color blood, and it is. So it'll just beat the life out of you if you trip. So we end up countering this, bouncing Knight back, and we take 3 damage, down to 10. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we draw, Trinket Mage here. We end up preordaining for basic lands. So this deck does run a lot of basic lands. We haven't seen any yet, but it runs a lot. So I kind of bank that I need a sweeper more than I need a Battered Skull right now. And I want to find that sweeper. We do get a Goblin, Dark Dwellers. We end up into the Roiling, I believe, the Goyf. So what our play is right now, what we're trying to play to do, is set up a turn where we Trinket Mage and then kill everything that's a 3 cost. And I'm sorry, play the Trinket out, get Engineered Explosives, and then blow up all the 3 costs. That's kind of what we're playing for, and that's what we end up getting here. And if I believe I'm not mistaken, and yeah, we play Ashiok into it. I feel like we need to start getting value off that. And if we're lucky, he'll attack it as opposed to us. But if we get lucky, we'll be able to play a threat off of it. So we end up playing out the Engineered Explosives, get his Sword of Fire and Ice, which I did not take a hit from because I couldn't. The plan right now is to block out his Tarmogoyf and then blow the explosives. But I can't possibly win this miss. I'm just playing it out for lulz. So I think we played this game out as good as we could. I don't know if there was another line where, we possibly could have won. But, I don't know. Sometimes it happens. You go to 5 cards, and that's the game. So game 2, and this is the first game we actually significantly sideboard in. So let me put the board up. So, and not significantly, but to some extent. What we end up bringing in, specific to this matchup, is the ensnaring bridge. I think that's going to be good against him. So other than that, I think everything else stayed in. And we pulled down a Karn because Karn is just, I think Karn is actually not that great against mid-range. I think Ugin's better against it. I'd rather have Ugin as opposed to Karn in this, but I also need to be quick. So this is a fine hand by my estimate. I have 2 sweeper effects. I also have a batter skull for the mid to late game. And I have a Vidalcan Shackles, even though I only have available to me right now 1 blue mana. But the deck is pretty ripe with blue mana. So we play out, I believe, the mountain first, so I can't get wastelanded. We see a turn 1 mana elf. Play out the fetch, same thing. We don't want to get wastelanded. He goes ahead and Tide Hollow Scullers us. Our plan at this point is just to blow up the board. Excuse me. Yeah, we get rid of all that junk. And we're kind of hoping we'll keep him off mana. So, at this point, we end up playing out our Vidalcan Shackles. We can steal the Courser and get value off of it. We see a Garrett come down, which is a big deal. But, lucky for us, we do have the Ensnaring Bridge to kind of stop some of his aggression, as well as the Creeping Tar Pit, which takes care of Planeswalkers very well. Yeah, we get bolted. Our Baleful Strixhaven's bolted. Yeah, whatever. And the name of the game now is to get our own Planeswalkers on the board because they're not really attacking Planeswalkers. They're more value Planeswalkers, which play better with Ensnaring Bridge. We attack in, get rid of the Garrick, and it's gone. We leave up the Into the Royal. For some reason, he thought Teases is here. I guess it's fine. I guess he wanted to get the Ashiok. And at this point, he just gives it up. And I get it. Like, I don't think on 1 card he's going to beat what we got going on. I mean, we've got a Jace that's going to recur spells. We've got a Goblin Dark Dwellers on top. We've got his Courser. We've hit our 3rd mana source, or correction, island. So we feel pretty favored, and we end up doing pretty well in this one. All right, so the last game, I believe we mulled down to 6. And the beating really is not the mull to 6. I mean, that's not a playable hand. This one is not good. So I scry and find it comes into play red-black, tap land on top. And I don't know if this is the right keep. I mean, I feel like if I go to 5, I'm just going to lose for sure. So I feel like, my best bet is to go for the scry, try to hit an untapped land and play the Ancestral Visions out, take a beating early game, and then eventually get to mana for Radiant Flames and wipe his board. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And then I already have my late game card, New Game. I mean, that's not coming out anytime soon. It's kind of a brick. And I'm already at 5 really anyway. So I see this hand and I'm like, I got to keep it. He's going to turn 1 mana elf. We're like, eh. We play out the Creeping Tar Pit because we know we're not going to get the island turn 1, which really means for us that Ancestral Visions is not coming off for us until like turn 5. Okay, so here he Inquisitions. This is where we get beat up. We get Inquisition. He takes care of that. He Duress us and takes care of the Flames. And like, I'm just, at this point, I'm just like, the salty mulls, And we're pretty sure we're dead now. We draw a Chandra, which we're not even really close to casting. And I believe we miss on lands for a while. That card pretty much beats us as well. Because we are a permission-heavy deck. I mean, like, they have like 16 or 17 counter spells, like Spell Snare. So here's what I'm thinking at this point. Like, I counter this thing because it's just going to be bigger than the Elemental. My game plan at this point is Wrath or Bust. So I'm thinking, like, I don't think there's a reasonable way I can win this from this point. And I see that, and I'm like, game's over. Like, Bitter Blossom just wrecks control. It's almost impossible to beat. So we end up doing this. We Wrath the board. We hit that thing with one of the burn spells. It's not instant speed, so I want to save damage. And we just still hit land. So, like, we end up just kind of getting mana screwed, even though we assumed that we could draw out of our initial mana light hand, given Ancestral Visions. But we cannot. Like, we die. And maybe the keep wasn't justifiable. Maybe I had to go to 5. But honestly, I think on 5, there's no way I'm beating what he's got going on right now anyway. So I think it was the right call to keep. Yeah, we're dead. So that's game against Dots. You know, the double maul first game, followed by a single maul plus 2 by discard against our hand, really screwed us up. That's one of the weaknesses of, you know, obviously control intrinsically, is that, you know, when the opponent plays a card like, you know, a discard spell, I have a lot less answers to what's going on than they have threats. So, you know, a card like that is generally tends to be pretty strong in their deck. So last match is against Chaos Black Doom, which is kind of a matchup that I'm lamenting because, like, I don't think Grixis tends to beat red deck wins. This first game, we see a Goblin guy, and we're like, eh. But we do happen to see a Batter Skull up top with it, which is cool. We play on the Baleful Strix because why not block it? He has the best possible in Searing Blaze, rather. And, you know, we're still doing okay. We know we're going to get to Wrath next turn. He's, like, just dumped a bunch of creature cards on the board. I much prefer to see creature cards come out than spells, because spells are a lot harder to deal with. He misses an attack on the Ash Cell. I don't think it ends up mattering here. We burn all of them out with Pyroclasm, leave up the Memory Lapse, lapse this thing to the top because I'd like him to draw that. It's fine. We end up hanging the Ancestral Visions, counter this with the Scry, and get the Scry off Dissolve. Looking for a land, really, at this point. We don't find the land. We bottom, if I'm not mistaken, and we hit our land. At this point, the game is pretty elementary. We end up winning by a significant landslide just due to the Batter Skull. And we end up taking the Grim because we just don't want to get burned out by it. Plus, it's actually a pretty good card against red deck wins. We burn that thing out. Attack in, drain him a bit. Burn him a bit. We're leaving the best spells in our graveyard just in case we draw Snapcaster or for Goblin Dark Dwellers. We get Flames of the Blood-Handed here, which is fine. He's on 0 cards. I'm at 9 life. I'm not going to gain this turn. Whatever. And I believe at that point, after the Ancestral comes off, I believe he concedes, but let's see. Yeah, so we make one more land drop after Ancestral comes off, and he just says, nope, not on it. So game 2, this is one of the more significantly sideboarded matchups. So, you know, all of the red hate comes in. We have our Sun Droplet, our Dragon's Claw, our Flash Flood, our Blue Elemental Blast, and our Crushing Hydro Blast put in. We take out Serum Visions because it's a slow trip. We take out Dreadbore. You know, he probably has a cough in there, but it's just too slow. It's not instant speed. We take out the Abyss, way too slow. Ashiok, way too slow. Ugin and Karn, both way too slow. So we try to lower the curve as much as possible, and like our game plan is really to get to a Wormcoil Engine or Batter Skull and win for that. So let me hide this thing. So fine keep, I think. You know, I know I'm gonna have blue mana on turn 2 to force spike anything. And if I keep on hitting lands, I feel like this hand's gonna win. Which the deck is land heavy. It's like a 39 land deck. We get attacked by a 1/1 fine. So our thinking is like, hey, you know, Shrine's out there, but I mean, if I can get him to a point where he's roughly tapped out or doesn't have 3 mana available, I can bounce that thing back to his hand. He plays on a Spear. I just force spike it, you know, because what I want to do is Ghastly Demise one of his cards. We see a Rakdos Cackler. We end up getting the Goblin Bushwhacker because really we're waiting for land. And we miss, like, I think it's 3 times on land, which kind of spells this deck's doom. Should have missed 3 times? Probably not. I think it's favored to draw land within 3 drops, you know, be on 39. So, yeah, we end up countering with the Dissolve this right here. And we're not feeling good about this. At this point, we have to throw the Jace away because the Shrine's on 8, obviously. But I don't know what his card is in hand, but I mean, any burn kills me here. And we bounce that thing just to see if he'll tap for it. He does, and we know the game's over at this point. And, you know, and I think if we hit one of our land drops in those first couple turns, we're probably okay in this matchup. But, you know, when you start missing land, this deck just doesn't function. All right, so game 3. And this one was real rough, if I remember correctly. So this is a great keep. We have early interaction for his creatures. We have a Dissolve for like a mid-range play. We have Force of Will to stop anything like that's just going to beat us. And then we have Mystical Teachings to kind of fetch what we need. So I kind of like this hand. Plus it has this land, so I'm going to keep it. Yeah, we see a Lightning Berserker. Yeah, that's cool. We end up playing out the Sun Droplet here. And I believe he plays, yeah, Dwarven Miner, which I could be wrong, but I think you have to get that thing. I think you have to burn that thing out. We end up force spiking this just to save the damage. And we're not fetching at this point because we just want to hit lands. And we're like, you know, and you'll see, I think we maybe eventually get to 4 lands, but it's way too late. We counter the Sim Prodder, just looking for lands, put Miscalc on the bottom. I don't want to draw Miscalc. I didn't want to draw Goblin Dark Dwellers either. Miscalc probably would have been better. I feel like if I can ever get Jason play and can eventually get to the Dwellers, like, it's going to be really hard. I can draw a Skull here, and I'm like, that's the best worst, because, like, that card just wins this matchup almost singularly. And he starts going to the face, and here's kind of where the game comes off the hinges for us. But you know what's bad when you're the control and your red deck wins opponent is on more lands than you are. And that's, I kind of accredit this loss to that. It's just, you know, we just brick. And, yeah, we just brick. And for some reason, you know, I think if you're on control, the best place to go is probably Esper. I like Esper, I think, better in this format. I guess this is sort of a pet deck for me. So we ponder here. Can't find a land. Draw a Snapcaster. It's just very, very rough. Yeah, we never even hit 4 lands. We get Flames of the Blood-Handed, and, you know, we expect he probably drew a burn spell. The game's probably over. We end up playing out the Snapcaster, blocking, and it dies. So, you know, that's a match. I think we probably hit some bad variants, and/or I need to relook the building my mana base. But I think the mana base is built properly in this. I just think, you know, we had some rough draws, you know, honestly, throughout the tournament. And I'm not saying this deck was better than any of the decks we played, but I think, you know, you see this game right here, and, you know, I feel like if we could hit 1 land, you know, a couple of turns ago, this game can't go wrong. Like, we can't lose it because we're drawing, you know, good cards, good spells, but we can't do a darn thing with them. So that was my experience for the 100-card singleton event on New Year's Eve. I hope you enjoyed the matches. I hope that, you know, they're instructive in some ways. And like I said, I think if you want to play the control, I think the best way to go is definitely Esper. This deck is habitually done very poorly for me. I think the best result I've gotten with a Grixis style deck was 2-1. The last time I played a deck similar to this, I ended up going 1-2 with it, and it was similar events. You know, I would have like a 2 or 3 land hand, and I would just brick on lands for, you know, 4 turns, and just, you know, get hopelessly behind and couldn't win. You know, and really this deck, it needs 4. It needs 4 and 5 lands. I mean, obviously we're playing Ugin, not in this matchup at this point because we boarded it out. But, you know, without your land drops and you're on a control deck like this, you're done. And we were. So good matches to all. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you're curious about the list or our experience playing and building Grixis style decks, let me know, and I'll definitely be happy to share. All right, have a great New Year's.